Before we get going on this one, DJ, you and we are going to the same bachelor party this weekend. And, obviously one of like the go-tos at a bachelor party is the strip club. Can you imagine the strip club that we're looking at? I don't believe it has a cover charge. Is that something that you're just like, dude, no cover charge, I'm all in? Or is it like, dude, there's no cover charge. They're letting anyone in this damn place. Like, should we even step foot in that place?
Honestly, anywhere near where we live that there's a strip club, I really don't want to step foot in either way. Oh,
Maybe a better question is, are you ready for a 2 day hangover? Because I think that's what it's going to be.
I'm not. I still might not show up.
Well, are you going to at least practice drink tonight?
I am.
Well, then let's get loaded. Because this is the Loaded Box Podcast.
Where we never finish first, because we finish last.
Another podcast with Ben Morgan and DJ Primo. Because this is the Loaded Box Podcast. And man, I don't know about you, but I am nervous about this bachelor party. Not because I don't like them and enjoy drinking, but we had planned on trying to make this like a day trip, like bus trip. We wanted to literally like start at like 10, 11 o'clock in the morning and be done by like 4 or 5 and just have like a nice like drunk night. And then you probably feel okay in the morning. And we totally backfired. We're going to be out till 2 in the damn morning.
Well, I don't think that was your decision. I think that was probably our buddy's decision, who literally only will drink till like 6 or 7, usually anyways. But I don't know. I don't like getting drunk in the day because I'm hungover later at night, so I probably would keep drinking no matter what.
Oh yeah, maybe that's true. Like if we started at 10 and we go to 2 in the morning, it'd just be even worse the next day.
Yeah, I mean, I promise you I wouldn't stop, so.
Oh gosh. Well, we'll definitely be back with the next episode recapping that. But this episode, we are talking some fantasy football rankings, and with rankings come discrepancies. So we are going to discuss you got to help me with that D word.
Differ.
Oh, where we differ the most, and then we're going to give
we
our.
disagree. I use differ on purpose, but it's where we disagree the most.
I knew what you were doing there, and that's why I had to turn it over to you. So yeah, we're going to be talking about some of our players that we differ the most on in this episode, in our rankings that we've been doing. If you've missed our last couple of episodes, we were talking our biggest fantasy football sleepers, our biggest bust. We did one episode that was strictly AFC. We did another episode that was AFC and NFC due to DJ's lack of listening to directions. But DJ, brand new episode today. I'm expecting you to bring it hard here. This is one of the first episodes where you've like developed all the content. So you must have like a lot of like ammo for these people that you're going to try to defend here.
Not really. I never have ammo for anything. I just looked at our discrepancies and put them on paper and said, fuck it, here we go.
Well, let's wing it then. Who's the first player you want to talk about? You want to start with the quarterback?
Yeah, we'll start right off the bat with quarterbacks and work our way down through the skill positions and never get to tight end. We're going to start with Deshaun Watson, a guy we talked about a ton, and we're going to continue to talk about, because you have him ranked as your quarterback 4. I have him ranked at my quarterback 13. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to defer to you on this one.
That was a great word, great use of the D word there. I'm proud of that.
I'll give you the D.
Kind of what we've talked about before. My thoughts on Deshaun Watson is he a quarterback for me? Probably not. I'm not going to take my quarterback that early.
Was that a play on words?
If it was, I stumbled into it.
Because he's like your quarterback 4, and he's the quarterback for me.
Bingo. There it is. Blame it on the Busch Light. So yeah, he's probably not a quarterback that I'm going to draft. However, if you put me in a situation where you say, Ben, you have to take a quarterback within the first 5 to 6 rounds, and you got Mahomes gone, you've got Rodgers gone, you've got Luck gone, Deshaun Watson's my next guy on there, and he's the one that I would take the earliest because of that potential. We've seen what he can do with his legs. We've seen what he can do with his arm when he's given enough time. So yeah, I know, and this is probably what you're going to say, consistency. And that's where I'm with you on that. But when you have a guy that has that big play, if you take him that early, you might be able to be a little bit lackluster at some other positions because he can carry you with boom weeks. Whereas you might not get that all the time out of a guy like a Phillip Rivers or a Matt Stafford that like is going to be a little bit more consistent.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about this. It is the consistency thing. You said, I mean, that's Tyreek Hill for us, right?
Yeah.
Consistency at the quarterback position, I think, is the most important to me. I want a guy scoring around like almost a minimum of about 20 points per game. Like every game, not average, because he's probably there for average, but like on an every game basis, like consistency that Devontae Adams put up, or Larry Fitzgerald has been known to put up, or Drew Brees has put up, and Aaron Rodgers has put up in the past. Phillip Rivers has put up. He's had games last year of 11, 5, 10, 9, 15, and 18. That's just too many games under that 20-point mark for me. Add to the fact that I've told you a million times that I just don't like this offensive line at all. And I think his rushing stats I honestly think they'll be cut in half. I can see 2 to 3 touchdowns rushing and 250 yards rushing.
So here's the thing, though. You got guys like DeAndre Hopkins, who is potentially like literally the number one overall receiver. You've got Will Fuller, who has, when he's been healthy, when he's actually played, has put up legit numbers. Touchdown scoring machine, literally the definition of it. Then you got my guy, who's kind of flying under the radar right now, Kiki QT. When he played, he was a target machine. He was a reception machine. The yards would come. I think he had like one game with multiple touchdowns, but he wasn't healthy the whole time either. That backfield, it's questionable right now with Deontay Foreman and Lamar Miller. Like, I don't trust either of those guys on my fantasy team. I think, end of the day, this is going to be a team that has to get it done through the air. All of those receivers that I mentioned earlier have like big play capabilities, and this is where maybe Deshaun Watson won't be that week in, week out guy. But man, I think he's very, very close to being like a lock, to being like overall, when it's all said and done, like a top 5 to 6 total scoring quarterback in fantasy football this year.
I mean, DeAndre Hopkins is guaranteed to be good because he's that bailout guy. Like, he'll bail out a quarterback out of a bad situation. Other guys, I don't see them doing that as much. But I don't know. I just don't see that tight end. They don't have a tight end.
That's
period.
true.
So they don't have a reliable guy to go through to get the ball, or that really reliable slot receiver that we've seen a lot of guys have that you can get the ball in the hands quickly. DeAndre Hopkins just can't be that guy every single time he's in trouble because it's just not going to work. People are going to take that quick route away. That's where DeAndre Hopkins' feast is downfield, is when he gets to run the patterns that can set people up. He needs time. He needs time, and I don't think he's going to have it.
When you judge quarterbacks in fantasy, do you pay attention to their in division games, because they're playing each of those teams twice? So that's 6 games out of your 16. So it's a fairly decent percentage. And when you look at that division, they're literally going against Jaguars. And I know they got a little bit last year, but I think that defense is going to bounce back. The Colts defense made like a total 180, and they look respectable now. And then Tennessee's kind of this outlier who they have the bodies, they've got the names. It just hasn't really come into fruition yet. So you actually have some legit defensive matchups there where if you can get to a different division for the majority of your games, you're probably going to have easier matchups. So the nice thing I think about Watson, though, I'll counterpoint my own argument here, is Deshaun Watson is kind of that quarterback that I don't know that it necessarily depends on who he's going against, because he has that ability to run. And I think you can kind of do that against any defense, the way plays break down. And if you have a quarterback that can make plays with his legs.
Also, he barely even has legs. Those legs are going to be questionable at best. Those legs might come right off of his body. Like, I wouldn't be surprised to see both of his legs snap in the same play.
Well, from a quarterback with apparently no legs to a quarterback that steals crab legs, looks like Jameis Winston is the next quarterback that you wanted to discuss, because I have him ranked as quarterback 21. You have him ranked as quarterback 14. I'll let you lead off with why you're a Winston believer this year.
So I have him a little higher than you, and we talked about him a little bit on the last pod. And lots of times I'll say, just because a team gets behind, like let's say your 49ers or your Jets of the past, or the Bills of the past, or most of the AFC East besides the Patriots in the past, just because they can get behind, or they do get behind, doesn't mean they're all of a sudden going to be able to score. Like, Blake Bortles was able to do that a couple of years back, feasted off of that. I think the Lions do that. That's not the case for Jameis Winston. That team, with Bruce Arians, they're going to be able to score. Like, they have the guys. He's a good enough quarterback. He's going to throw that ball downfield. I told you about the stat I want them to come up with. Air
Time that ball is in the air.
It's like the punter stat for quarterback. his ball will travel more time in the air than every quarterback in the entire league. I guarantee you. Even if Jameis Winston throws 3 interceptions or 4 interceptions, he's going to throw 4 touchdowns or 5 touchdowns because he has O.J. Howard. He has Cameron Brate, who's a touchdown monster. He has Chris Godwin, and then he ends it all with fucking Mike Evans. Like, he has a ton of guys. And really, his running backs are really just guys who catch the ball as well out of the backfield. Like, between Barber and Ronald Jones, those guys are basically got running backs that like to play receiver. I just imagine yards and touchdown numbers are going to be monstrous for Jameis. Like, he will be the new version of Matt Stafford to me.
I'm going to start my theory on this one with a couple of questions to you, because if you have him as quarterback 14, obviously that means that you're probably targeting a different quarterback first, and then you would have Winston as like a high-end backup, correct?
Yes. Yeah, I might even grab him as a starter because I'm a weird guy. That's not how I rolled it, yeah.
All right, so here's my theory on this. With me ranking him quarterback 21, that means there's zero chance I have him as a low-end QB1. And that means if I draft a quarterback too, which I typically do, I like to have a little bit of insurance policy in case my guy goes down early. I'm not a huge fan of trying to find one on the waivers. I'd rather have 2 like average to maybe above average guys. By me ranking him 21, I am basically telling you that I don't even trust him as my starter's backup. Because at a certain point in time in your career, you are who you are. You're just not going to start like all of a sudden just progressing into this awesome downfield playmaking machine that just consistently becomes like a fantasy guy. So yeah, if my starter gets hurt, I don't have the faith in Winston anymore at this point. I think it's a make or break season, and I think it's going to be a break season. So yeah, in fantasy, I want a decent second quarterback. According to my rankings, Winston doesn't fit the bill for that. I'm not going to put my faith in him.
He just doesn't have to be a good quarterback. He doesn't have to be. He doesn't have to have a breakout season. They can go 4-12, and he's still going to throw for 4,000 to 5,000 yards and like 30+ touchdowns. Like, I honestly believe that, just because they're going to be so bad. That's what the Lions have like feasted on those years before last year. And that Stafford puts up huge numbers, and the team just sucks. That's what Jameis Winston is. He's a good enough quarterback. Who cares about that jump? I don't care about his jump. He's good enough. He's as good as Carson Palmer. Like, there's no doubt in my mind. He's gonna put up those numbers. Like, it's just gonna happen. I don't care how what the jump is that we're talking about. There's no, like, he's not gonna all of a sudden like not throw interceptions and make good decisions. It's still gonna happen. But he also is a guy who can throw the ball downfield and throw it down at the field accurately, and a guy who can get away and run around and make plays. So he's going to do that as well. He's going to piss you off one play, and then you're going to love him the next.
That's a risky business in the fantasy world, man.
Yeah.
So I like his playmakers. I love Mike Evans. Always liked Mike Evans. I'm a big Godwin guy. I love O.J. Howard. Like, I like all these guys. But let's look back at his career. He's always had Mike Evans. He's had O.J. Howard for a couple of years. He's had Cameron Brate. He's had Chris Godwin. He's had Deshaun Jackson, and he turned him fantasy. Well, actually, like Ryan Fitzpatrick actually did. But man, they've had these guys before. I don't know that we're just magically saying, oh, hey, he's got all these playmakers. He's going to get it done. He's had all these guys.
But he has Bruce Arians now.
I don't trust Bruce Arians. Bruce Arians is... At a certain point, like, the game's evolved. It's evolved past Bruce Arians. Like, his eyesight,
he doesn't need to win. He just needs to throw it.
He won't even be able to like see what's happening. Like, how thick are that dude's glasses?
He doesn't need to win games. He just needs to throw it downfield, and he's gonna do it.
There's a chance Bruce Arians is questionable for week 1 with like a heart issue.
He drank paint when he was younger.
And we drink Busch Light and Miller Light, apparently. Which running back do you want to talk about here?
Let's start out with a guy we haven't talked about. I didn't add him on until later. I was like, wait, we got to talk about someone we haven't. Josh Jacobs. I guess we have a tiny bit, but not a huge amount. I have him at RB18. We should really just have Mitch on for this one, like the Raiders guy.
Right.
I have him at RB18, so I'm about 11 spots higher than your RB29. Why do you rank him so low?
I think my theory on this one is, and once again, I'm actually going to kind of counterpoint my own point here for a second. I'm not a huge fan in trying to put that much faith in a rookie running back. And where did you say you had him ranked?
I had him at running back 18, and I think I might be low.
So you're thinking like mid to like high end RB2. And if I'm drafting him at that point, he has to be a weekly starter for me. And that's a lot from a rookie. That's a lot from a guy who hasn't truly proven to be like a workhorse running back. And that's a lot to prove from a running back for the Raiders. I get it that they've got a lot of new pieces in play. Antonio Brown opens a couple of things up here. But man, when's the last time like a Raiders running back was fantasy relevant? And we're just gonna like jump in and say Josh Jacobs is going to be this guy. I know Saquon Barkley did that, but Josh Jacobs isn't in Saquon Barkley's like hemisphere. Like it's a totally different scenario here. So I like Josh Jacobs. If he somehow falls, I wouldn't mind grabbing him. But I have to keep him ranked a little bit lower right now just because I don't know about that Raiders offense, and I don't know that I want to get trapped with a running back in that offense if it's going to cost me that high of a draft pick.
This guy is a fucking just giant
I like him.
running back.
Yeah.
Who runs a 4.340 for Christ's sake. Look, everybody uses this argument like, I know you just said it, and Mikey really used it. It was like, he's never been the lead back. He was never lead back. It's a great thanks. You're helping my argument. He has no mileage. Like, he got to split carries last year in that Alabama offense. That's amazing because that's what I usually worry about with running backs there is they just get their asses beat. No, he doesn't have as much mileage as those running backs do. And honestly, he was obviously the best running back coming out of that offense of the two. Him and what was his name? I'm blanking on it.
I know who you're talking for Alabama, Damian Harris.
Damian Harris, yeah. He has a great offensive line set up for him in Oakland. And you know what? His coach is John Gruden, who's still playing 1970s football, so they're going to run it. Plus the fact they have Antonio Brown getting a ton of attention towards him, that's just going to open up more offensive lanes. I love Josh Jacobs. I am higher on Josh Jacobs, honestly, and I haven't seen like it than I was. On Sony Michel last year. Like, I think he was higher than where Sony finished last year.
That's saying something because you were like the Sony Michel guy.
Yeah.
I agree with a lot of the things you said. It's just there's so much uncertainty that I struggle trying to pick a guy that high in the draft that I have that many like question marks surrounding. So I don't mind him. I love him as a player. Dude, we saw him on the spotlight against like some of the top tier teams in the college football playoff. He was running it, he was catching it, he was making dudes miss, he was faster than most everyone out there. I was like, dude, this guy is going to be a legit NFL running back. Like he solidified his spot right then and there. Maybe I'll get him next year. I just can't do it quite right.
I think last year I predicted the Raiders and John Gruden to the T. I didn't want anybody out of that offense. Didn't like anything. Other people were like, yeah, let's take people. They're going to be good. John Gruden this. Lots of, camp talk. By the way, I can't wait to watch those fuckers on Hard Knocks. That's going to be amazing.
That'll be wild. So, DJ's.
I think.
There you go.
John Gruden looks at this guy. He's got a little. What? You got me?
No, you're good.
I think John Gruden looks at this guy, gets a little boner, and sees Mike Allstott. That's what I think.
I don't even know where to go with that. Because
that's just what he sees.
So he's going to be a white fullback?
Yeah, well, Mike Allstott was a halfback. Pretty much.
You've pinned me into like a hole here. I don't even know where to go with that. Like, that's the weirdest freaking comparison. No one is Mike Allstott except for Peyton Hillis.
Just saying.
Let's talk about a different running back. Let's talk a little bit about Dalvin Cook because we've got a pretty decent discrepancy here because I have him as a low RB1. I have him as RB11 overall, and you have him as a low end RB2. So basically a whole like tier discrepancy here. You have him as RB22. Do you want to lead off with this one since I'm like just fumbling my words and I've only had like 2 beers?
Yeah, I can do that.
Go ahead.
Lots of people are big fans of Dalvin Cook here. I think his one bust-out game last year was when he was finally healthy against the Dolphins. And let's be honest, like when he was finally healthy, I should say, he was he was healthy a couple games before that, but his one big bust-out game was when he was finally healthy against the Dolphins. And my mother, she had a good rushing game against the Miami Dolphins. Like, they suck. They sucked to, like, a guy in their rushing defense. Aaron Jones exploded against them. Overall, I don't like the offensive line. Plus the fact that you brought this up earlier in this, when I look at fantasy, sometimes I look at their division opponents. They have to face the Bears and the Packers twice, who, when healthy, have great defensive fronts that are going to be really tough to run against. I don't want Dalvin Cook on my team. He's not going to be on any of my teams because he's going to be way overdrafted.
This is probably, like, so far of what we talked about, I think this is going to be the biggest discrepancy because, man, there's a point in drafts that I'm looking at. If it goes running back heavy, if I'm at the tail end of the first round where I can either get like a Devontae Adams, an Odell Beckham Jr., a really good wide receiver, and then I can come back and Dalvin Cook may still be on the board to be my RB1 that I get in the second round, I'm going to jump on it because he flashed like crazy his rookie year. That knee injury sucked. Like, it just derailed what was going to be a really nice season. And then, like you said, yeah, he took a little while. He only had a couple of flashes here and there last year. But, man, like, we look at these knee injuries sometimes with just like foggy glasses because of what guys like Adrian Peterson did. Like, people just don't come back from those injuries and bang, run for 2,000 yards. That dude is just a different like specimen. Like, Adrian Peterson's on a different level of athleticism where like not all people are created equally, and he's one of those people. Dalvin Cook maybe needs the extra 6-7 months to get healthy. And that's what he has now. And he's had the entire offseason not to rehab, but to get better as an actual football player. This guy's going to get opportunities. They did make some improvements to that offensive line. I think the offense in general is going to get better. Kirk Cousins, he's going to have more time. He's going to be able to utilize his playmakers better. And Dalvin Cook's going to be able to get it done as a pass-catching back as well. I don't think they have like another guy that's going to challenge him for targets out of the backfield. So I think when you look at like that floor, I think Dalvin Cook is going to be that consistent guy on the Vikings offense with Thielen. I think it's going to be Thielen and Cooks like every single week being your consistent guys. And yeah, I'm all about trying to like get him real early in the second round. He's like my running back to get this year.
And look at the fact that let's add to this that Kirk Cousins inside the red zone is one of the worst at scoring touchdowns. Like he just stalls, and he's like good between the 20s, and then he gets inside the red zone, and his teams just don't score. That's going to bring his touchdown numbers down. People aren't considering that, I don't think, either. Kirk Cousins is just trash in the red zone. He is. It's proven year after year after year. He's just not good in red zone. That's just his forte. I think it just starts to get bundled and clustered, and it fucks with him, and he makes bad decisions.
Here's another thing, though, with Cook. How many teams truly have, like, that one running back that's going to continue to get, like, the consistent touches and that kind of volume that Cook's going to get? He's in, like, a tier with very few running backs now. Like, we're getting so many, like, running backs by committee where it's 2, even 3 guys in some scenarios. This is Cook's position. Like, he's going to get the bulk of the work. It just becomes fewer and fewer guys. Like, Todd Gurley's probably not even that kind of guy anymore. And he was literally the fantasy MVP last year. Like, Dalvin Cook is in just a class not of his own, but of very few running backs. And if you can snag someone like that, I don't think you can pass it. He's going to go early, but he's going to garner that for sure.
Yeah, but LaShawn McCoy was also that guy as well, and he was trash.
Well, not back in the day, though.
Well, last year, I mean, he was like the only running back on the team, and he didn't do anything.
LaShawn McCoy was also like 30 years old.
I don't know. He was the only running back. But when your offensive line just doesn't have it, your offensive line just isn't the team. It's just like, doesn't matter how good you are. I'm going to say this over again. You're only a product of football of what people are around you. So if you have good offensive line, you're going to get murdered. That's why I don't like Murray, and I don't like Deshaun Watson. Like, you're only as good as what's put around you in football. Basketball is a little different. Baseball is way different. This football is like the ultimate team sport.
That's true. If you remember, though, to last year when we did like our sleepers and busts podcast, and LaShawn McCoy was going as like an RB1, top end RB2 in the second round, I said, dude, run away from that guy. That offense is going to be trash. Who knows what the hell is going to happen with Josh Allen? There were so many like different factors that played into LaShawn McCoy. So I get what you're saying. Just because you're the guy doesn't mean you're going to turn into it. But I think that comparison is just a little too far off because Cook isn't old. He's not on a crap offense. He doesn't have a rookie at quarterback. There's just a lot of different factors there which make that completely different.
Well, LaShawn McCoy's still a better runner than Dalvin Cook.
You're going to get just beat up on Saturday at this bachelor party.
He is. I mean, he's cut on a dime 10 or whatever.
Oh, that's true. We can always come back if we want to. Let's hit a wide receiver. Change it up a little bit. Who do you want?
Let's go with Robbie Anderson. One that I like that I've seen people talking about. I saw a little coach talk today on him, and I was already high on him before. The coach talk makes me nervous because I never like coach talk, but I have him at wide receiver 20. You have him a full 12 spots below me at wide receiver 32. Do you have thoughts on that? I didn't give you time to look at these, so hopefully you weren't thinking about moving on.
I'm totally fine because by doing the rankings, I just kind of know what my feelings are on the player, so I wasn't worried about that going into it. But here's my take on Robbie Anderson. It's not that I'm low on him; it's just that I'm not as high on him as you are.
Yeah.
I think I'm damn close to where like his ADP is. I think I'm pretty much the same feeling as a lot of people. I'll talk about my positives quick. I see some progression this year with Sam Darnold. I was a huge fan of him coming out of college. I'm not a big Adam Gase guy, but I think Darnold can like overcome some things, and he already flashed some. Like he's already proven that he can make NFL throws. Robbie Anderson, he's not your like top tier wide receiver that you're gonna like hear about every single week. But man, he's proven that he can get it done with some shit quarterbacks on some shit offenses. So yeah, I'm fine with him as my mid-tier wide receiver 3. I don't want him in every single one of my leagues, but I wouldn't mind it if I had him in a couple. Like it's just one of those guys that I don't want to rely on every week, but I can't fathom putting him where you have him at wide receiver 20 because that pretty much means if I take him, I'm pretty stacked at running back, but I'm starting Robbie Anderson every single week, and I don't like that.
Dude, if you went like running back, and end up with Robbie Anderson as your wide receiver 1, I'd be pumped, dude. I'd be pumped.
You'd be pumped to be in the consolation bracket.
I'd win championships, baby.
It doesn't matter which bracket
receiver
they are.
38 last year. What?
I said it doesn't matter which bracket you're in, as long as it's a championship is a championship.
So he finished last year as wide receiver 38 last year with a bunch of games he didn't compete in. He has a future and maybe a star coming this year with another year of them together. I just like if he stays out of trouble and doesn't do anything stupid, and he gets to play this full year with Sam Darnold, who I think can compete for this division this year. I see big days. There's not a lot of wide receivers that I'm worried about, but if you get a guy who can end up being, I think, like a top 10 quarterback in this league, and then you have his number 1 receiver, that guy should not finish lower than a wide receiver 20, in my opinion. That's going to be his top target in this offense, really. That's his guy. It's going to be Le'Veon Bell, it's going to be Robert Anderson. Those are really the two-man guys there. I can't see how he doesn't finish if he plays the whole year, doesn't do anything stupid outside of the football field, finish as a wide receiver 20. I just don't see how he doesn't.
All right, so here's my newfound biggest beef I have with you ranking him that high. If anyone's listened to this podcast before, you know that DJ sometimes has some very obscure reasonings for his rankings. And one of his biggest ranking theories is, what does a player look like? Does his look maybe bother you a little bit? I'm looking at a picture of Robbie Anderson right now. He looks one of two things. One, like he might be a homeless tarantula, or two, he's like a character like in a Dave Chappelle skit where there's a lot of crack cocaine involved. And I don't mean anything mean by that, but he doesn't look the part. And that's where I'm like, what's going on here, DJ? I feel like you're being a little hypocritical here.
A homeless tarantula?
Spiders
literally build their home wherever the fuck they want.
Well, this one forgot how to build.
I don't even know what that means. But yeah, I don't mind Robbie Anderson's look. I looked at a couple of pictures of him. He doesn't have this stupid fucking haircut. He has like some cornrows or whatever and whatever. Just because his face might be stupid doesn't mean like there's a difference between like having a stupid face that you can't control and like putting on the dumbest haircut of all time. Like it's just like what's his name, your guy Philip Lindsay.
Yeah.
That haircut just was completely unnecessary. It didn't need to happen.
I like, though, that you did admit that in your analysis, you did look at a couple photos. Like, you just want to, you did throw that in there.
I absolutely look at photos. You kidding me?
Before we talk about our next receiver, let's talk about one of the companies that support this podcast. It's Pristine Auction, and we're going to be doing another giveaway leading up to the 2019 NFL season, so make sure you are paying attention to that. But in the meantime, we can get you an extra $5 put to an item that you would bid on and win at pristineauction.com. Just enter the code LOADED in the registration code field when you create your account. They've got daily auctions, week-long auctions, tons of stuff for all sports for your man cave. So go to pristineauction.com, and when you register, type in registration code LOADED. TJ, pick out another wide receiver that you would like to hear about why you should draft him where I have him ranked versus where you have him ranked.
Those are just messy dreads, not a homeless tarantula. I'm sorry, I'm looking at Robert Anderson now. I got all caught up on him.
I'm right.
You don't have any daddy advice today? Or, I mean, baby, whatever
Pregnant wife advice. I was actually going to talk about that as well. And I'm going to have to take a week off. I realized that throughout this entire course of a week since we last podcasted, I haven't done anything stupid or anything crazy wrong. So I haven't really learned anything this week. So that means I'm due, especially with the bachelor party coming up here. I might have 2 next week.
I'm so glad you have such a stupid fucking... I can't even listen to you do that. My son today, I'll tell you something. Here's a little something I'm going to start doing as a dad.
Is this daddy advice with DJ?
Yeah, my son today, he decided to unroll all of the toilet paper upstairs, and I'm just sick of it. So while he's sleeping, I'm just going to wrap up him and his entire room in fucking toilet paper. Like, that's what I'm going to do. So every time he starts to do something stupid that I don't like, I'm just going to, use it against him so he never does it again. So he's like, fuck, I'm going to be wrapped up in toilet paper next time, and it's going to be awful.
Please mummify your son by just toilet paper taping him to the bed and taking a photo of it.
It's going to toilet paper the shit out of him.
If you drop a full roll of toilet paper in the toilet and it gets soaking wet, are you throwing it away or are you trying to let it dry, save it?
I considered actually putting it in water and wrapping him in it, because that would just be sloppy and gross. But I don't know the answer to your question.
I liked your answer to the question that you just ad-libbed on anyway, so that's fine. All right, what wide receiver do you want to talk about?
Let's go with. Did I put 4 wide receivers on here?
You went ham on wide receivers.
I thought I only put 3. Let's go with N'Keal Harry. I have him way low. I have him at wide receiver 68.
Yeah, real low.
I have him at wide receiver 49. Who do you want to go first?
I can lead off on this one, and this is another example of where I think the discrepancy comes because you are so much lower than the average draft position that he currently sits at. I think I might even be a little low on that, but I think, and I'm probably gonna steal a little bit of what you say here. It's the damn rookie wide receiver curse. They always have these gigantic fantasy drafters have these crazy unrealistic expectations for rookie wide receivers that they hardly ever live up to. So that's why I have him probably a little bit lower than his ADP and you have him much lower than his ADP. But here's why I'm going to say he has the potential to live up a little bit to some expectations. Remember how last year you said the Patriots and Bill Belichick did not draft Sony Michel to sit there? That's not what's going to happen. I don't think the Patriots drafted N'Keal Harry to just sit there. I think they're going to try to utilize him. Remember, they still have Edelman. They lost Gronk. They lost Chris Hogan. Who the hell knows what's going to happen with Josh Gordon? So, yeah, someone has to catch the passes. And I know that Tom Brady's becoming less and less fantasy relevant as the seasons go on. But, man, the Patriots are going to – I mean, they won the damn Super Bowl last year with that team. They clearly have the offense that can get things done and have fantasy relevant players. So I think someone's going to be fantasy relevant on that offense besides Michelle and White at running back. And then, obviously, besides – Edelman at wide receiver. You don't have your other guys that were fantasy relevant in the past. Harry's going to be given the opportunity. Harry has the highest ceiling. That's why he has that opportunity to actually kind of live up to where people are drafting him right now.
Not only do I hate rookie wide receivers, I hate rookie wide receivers that play with Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady. Those two guys just by themselves, because they just don't play well with them. They just don't get them the ball. The difference between Sony Michel and N'Keal Harry is the fact that all you have to do is hand the ball off to Sony Michel. You gotta hope N'Keal Harry is in the spot that you want him to be, because the ball is flying through the air, and if he's not in the right spot, he doesn't know what's going on. He's not on the same page. He just doesn't understand Tom Brady's system yet, because it's probably very complicated to get on the same system yet. It's not going to work out the first year. It just isn't. He's not going to be somebody that he targets. There has to be a connection that you build with a guy like that. He is a play action, get rid of the ball, drop step guy, get rid of the ball. If not, he's probably going to throw it away or get sacked. Like, everything has to be in rhythm. Yes, Tom Brady to me is a system QB, because Bill Belichick runs the best system, and he fits that system just as good, if not better, than anybody else. He couldn't do what Aaron Rodgers does in Green Bay, but he does his job better than anyone else does in that system. They are the perfect fit, and N'Keal Harry, I keep saying Harry just does not. He just won't come in there and do it right away, because it's such a hard thing to master with a guy like that. It's just not going to happen. He's not draftable. He's not rosterable. He will not be on anybody's rosters after like week 5. It's a waste of a pick when there's other guys out there you can take a shot on.
How about this? What if N'Keal Harry, instead of that being his name and his correct height, like what he is right now, what if his name was Chris Smith, and he was a 5'10" white guy that played the slot? Would he be fantasy relevant?
I might consider him.
That's literally one of the things that's holding him back, is like Tom Brady has like consistently made like these slot receivers just unbelievable in fantasy. Like, there's been discussions. I mean, remember last year, is Julian Edelman a Hall of Famer? Shut up. Like, stop talking about that. Remember when, like, and I don't mind Wes Welker, but remember like when Wes Welker was like, oh, he is the best slot receiver like in recent history, best in the game. No, he's not. He was playing with the Patriots. He's a really good receiver. He's fine, but he's not the best ever.
Nope.
Tom Brady can make that slot receiver super fantasy relevant. That might be where N'Keal Harry like has his biggest downfall. It's like he's going to be playing on the outside primarily. Edelman's still going to be like running those quick outs and the drags across the middle. Like, that's still going to be Edelman's deal. But I just think that there's room for another weapon to be fantasy relevant. But I agree with a lot what you said. Like, I don't think he's going to live up to the expectations that a lot of drafters have for him.
Yeah, also, I just don't like him personally as a wide receiver, so I know a lot of people are hiding him. I just don't like him as a wide receiver coming in the NFL either, but just building on top of those things. And who are we kidding? Is Rob Gronkowski not coming back into this team next year? Probably. You know how I don't draft tight ends? I'm going to wait till the end of every draft, and I'm going to draft Rob Gronkowski, and then I'll stream tight ends until Rob Gronkowski comes back.
There was some photos rolling around, though, of Rob Gronk where it looked like he lost about 60 to 70 pounds. Like, he looked like ultra skinny.
Even better.
He'll be fast all of a sudden. He just be like a downfield monster.
There was a video of him talking to Drew Brees, and it looked like he said, "I'm coming back," or something like that. Or you could hear him say it.
I swear to God, if that works out and somehow you predicted in the middle of July that you're going to be stream picking up Rob Gronkowski and he's going to end up as a tight end 1.
Yeah, I'm going to draft him in the end of all the drafts. Hopefully, maybe before the last round, because people will think that they're sneaky taking him last round. I'm going to take him in the second to last round, just to make sure I get a run earlier, and I'm going to keep him on my team, and he's going to dominate when he comes back.
You're going to one-up the retired tight end pick. I like it. You went from drafting no tight ends to drafting a retired tight end.
Yeah, 100%. That's the only one that I'll ever draft.
That's literally a zero tight end strategy still. You're not like going against your word somehow.
I'm drafting a guy who doesn't even play in the NFL right now.
I like it. Well, let's do a wild card one here. I know we have another running back and another wide receiver. Let's do one of them, and you can pick the one you feel strongest about.
I thought that you'd want to pick.
Nope. It's your show.
All right, let's go with Sammy Watkins.
Ooh, that's the one I was hoping you wouldn't pick.
I have have Sammy Watkins at wide receiver 15. You have Sammy Watkins at wide receiver 29.
Well, hold on though. Is your ranking currently based on Tyreek Hill being suspended for say like 6 to 8 games?
My note says operating on thought of Hill being out and Watkins staying healthy.
Well, that's a hell of a note because who knows what's going to happen with Tyreek, and I almost kind of know that Sammy Watkins is not playing 16 games this year.
You don't know shit.
I know everything.
Look at, like, even if Tyreek Hill does play, though, like, 29 is low because Sammy Watkins, if he does stay healthy, at one point with Tyrod Taylor, when he does stay healthy, he's, like, one of the best, most talented wide receivers in the league. He runs deep just as good as anybody in the league, but he just runs good routes. Like, you see flashes of him. I know you were the biggest fan of him.
I still am, yeah.
Yeah, with Patrick Mahomes out there, and I see a guy like him getting more. They have room to feed more than two pass catchers, like more than Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill. And plus, honestly, I'm not a big fan of their running backs anymore. So those three by themselves could kind of carry the team.
Yeah.
As far as all stats go. So I still don't hate it as long as Watkins. And we've said this every year for the every year that he's played. As long as Watkins stay healthy, it's probably the dumbest thing I've ever said, but I just can hope that he does.
Right. I'm just looking right now at his actual ADP, and he's wide receiver 25, so he's basically right in the middle of where we have him, being the. How do you figure?
I mean, because you're 4 spots away from him, and I'm 10.
All right, so he's fairly in the middle of where we have him, right? Damn it! You played the math card on me, you asshole.
Yeah, gotcha. Numbers.
You said how I feel about Sammy Watkins. Man, I am a huge Sammy Watkins fan. If it wasn't for being in that damn draft class that he was a part of, which is probably one of like the best, literally in NFL history, it's a ridiculous class, he wouldn't be viewed the way he is. Like, I don't think people are out there calling him a bust, but they're saying he hasn't lived up to his potential, which maybe is true because he did go like, it was either top 10 or right around 10 to the Bills. But man, remember some of those runs that he went on when he was healthy in Buffalo? He was not only fantasy relevant, but he was a guy that you were like, oh yeah, I'm starting every single week because not only is he going to be consistent, but man, he packs like some huge big play potential. I think a lot of my current ranking on him right now boils down to I don't know what's going to happen with Tyreek Hill. This is a ranking that's going to change for me because that news is going to come out at some point before we draft. Like, that's going to impact his ranking for me. The other thing is, this is what I talked about with Jameis Winston. At a certain point, you are what you've shown to be. Sammy Watkins is a fucking walking questionable. Like, he could just be on the sideline. He might not play in a single week, and he would trip on something on the sideline and be out the next 4 weeks. That's what scares me, man. You're investing a sixth round pick in Sammy Watkins right now. You can get Jarvis Landry, Alshon Jeffrey, your boy Robbie Anderson, Dante Pettis. These are all guys that I'm like fairly high on that I think provide the same kind of like potential when it comes to consistency. Maybe not that boom potential because he's playing with Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, but when it comes to consistency, all those guys provide it. None of those guys have had the injury history that Sammy Watkins has. That plays a role when you get injured that often. It plays a role for me.
No, you only need one healthy season to change your mind.
That is true. That is true. Let's totally ad lib here. Speaking of a healthy season, a guy that's played one healthy season in his career, full 16 games, is Melvin Gordon. And the news came out that he either wants a new deal or he wants to be traded. Is that going to, like, depending on how it all plays out, I know it's a lot of speculation right now because we have some time before the season starts. But in the next rankings that you do, are you bumping guys like Austin Eckler a little bit higher? Are you dropping a guy like Melvin Gordon? What are you going to do here with that situation?
Yeah, it's funny. I'm really glad you asked this question because I was one of the victims of Le'Veon Bell next year.
Yeah, you were.
There is zero chance, 0.0 chance, if he's not signed by training camp, that I draft this guy in anything. Like, I'm never doing it again. Like, anybody who's holding out, I'm just not going to draft him that's, like, anywhere near that high because of what happened with Le'Veon. I'm like, nope, I'm done with it. Because if I had Le'Veon in the league that we were in last year, I'm easily in the playoffs, and I'm competing for a championship. Instead, I'm, like, one spot out of the playoffs because I don't have my lead running back. I'm not dealing with that shit again. That was so frustrating and so stressful. So yeah, I'm the guy who's going to try to steal Austin Eckler in round 12 and fuck the other guy over who drafted Melvin Gordon earlier instead of being on the other side of it.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, if it comes down to that, Eckler's going to get moved up. Like, he's going to be taken early. He's not going to be taken like first or second round early like Melvin Gordon was. But you know there's going to be people out there that, oh, this guy is the number one back for the Chargers now. I have to take him. That makes me a little nervous.
I'm not going to reach for him. I mean, but I just am not going to draft Melvin Gordon.
I tell you, I'm just secretly praying that somehow he does get traded because I just dealt him in Dynasty a couple of weeks back, and I have both Austin Eckler and Justin Jackson on my Dynasty team. So I'm just sitting there. I'm just sitting there potentially with a starting running back on a really good offense.
I completely forgot about Justin Jackson. I liked him a lot when he played last year, too.
I know, right?
And at Northwestern.
Right. Do you have anything else you want to hit on, or should we wrap her up?
We can wrap it up like a nice, tight condo.
That's what's happening this weekend at the bachelor party.
That was a terrible joke.
So I tried covering it up for you.
Edit that out. That was terrible.
We'll edit that out. If you heard that, it's a mistake.
Yeah, it was a mistake.
As always, though, check us out on Twitter at LoadedBox. Check out our website. We have our blogs. We have our podcasts. We've got fantasy rankings. Everything you need, loadedboxpodcast.com. Our next episode, I don't know if it'll be the exact next episode, but hope you're ready for the next episode. Hey. Because we're going to be probably talking our fantasy rankings, actual like positional rankings. You know how I don't need to describe rankings to you. You get it. We're available on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, YouTube. Subscribe, rate, review. DJ, put us into the bachelor party mode.
Radio.com. Bye.